I will not make any commentary. I will not say anything that can even remotely be considered medical advice. Period, full stop. I am not a doctor. I am an obsessive compulsive neurotic individual and arguably even a hypochondriac. But I'm not a doctor, and I will not make any of the comments that all of you might be thinking in your own heads as we read this article. But let's read the article. Let me just minimize this so I can see it at the same time. There will be no commentary. That I will not be stating anything mildly objectionable, offensive, getting out of my lane as a lawyer with a YouTube channel. From the Daily Mail. Healthy young people. This is from June 8th, 2022. Or as they say in the UK, 8 June 2022. Healthy. I will also not read the chats, although I'm looking at them. Healthy young people are dying suddenly and unexpectedly from a mysterious syndrome as doctors seek answers through a new national register. You know, they want to, in Canada, they floated the idea of a national gun registry so they could keep track of firearms. Now they need a national registry to keep track of young, healthy people dying from a mysterious syndrome. In case you don't have time to read the entire article, bullet number 1, people aged under the age of 40 being urged to go and get their hearts checked. Many potentially, what's my problem here? May potentially be at risk of having sudden adult death syndrome, SADS. SADS is an umbrella term to describe unexpected deaths in young people. It's funny. Historically, it was just called heart attacks if it was a heart-related death. A 31-year-old woman who died in her sleep last year may have had SADS. No, she may not have had SADS. She had SADS if it means sudden adult death syndrome because she died in her sleep at 31. It's happened before. It happens. You know, I have known plenty of people who have passed away untimely. SADS is an umbrella term. Okay, we just read that part, but let's just get into this article. The term is used when a post-mortem cannot find an obvious cause of death. By the way, interesting Trivial Pursuit question. What is literally the cause of all death? Ooh, let's see if anyone in the chat knows this. This was, I believe this was a Trivial Pursuit question, but literally all cause of death. What is it? Let's see. Yeah, well, hold on a second, people. Let me see. Sorry. Okay. Seems that... Oh, that's too crooked. Hold on. All causes. All death can be attributed to one explanation. Darn it. Apparently my zip tie cracked plastic container is no longer a good base for the camera. I'll fix that later. It is not heart stops because you can still be alive without a beating heart. Lack of a beating heart would not be the right answer. Dying, yeah. It is lack of oxygen to the brain. That is what is the cause of all death. Lack of oxygen to the brain, which can be brought about by lack of circulation, lack of a heart beating, and so on. I had gotten here late. I'm glad no young people. Oh, okay. I don't want anyone misconstruing that. So it is lack of oxygen to the brain is technically the cause of all death. Now, let's get back to this article and hope the camera doesn't fall down again. The US-based SADS Foundation has said that over half of the 4,000 annual SADS deaths of children, teens, and young adults have one of the top 2 warning signs present. Those signs include a family history of SADS, diagnosis, or sudden unexplained death of a family member, and fainting or seizing during exercise or when excited or startled. Okay. It's a very, I mean, I'm just noticing from this article, one thing is acutely missing. Comparison of time frame of an increase in SADS. By the way, let me just I'll flag this and I'll get to it after. Not flag, I'll star the comment to get to it. Okay. Then we have an example here, which, one example is not something that we draw a large conclusion from. Melbourne's Baker Heart and Diabetes Institute is developing the country's first SADS registry. There are approximately 700 cases per year of people aged under 50 in Victoria suddenly having their heart stop. A spokesman said, okay, I'd like to know the comparison over time, if I may ask the obvious question, which seems to be acutely missing from this article. What of these, approximately 100 young people per year will have no causes found even after extensive investigation. Cardiologist and researcher Dr. Elizabeth Palitz said Baker's registry was the first in the country. Okay, fine. The majority of SADS, 90%, occur outside the hospital. The person doesn't make it, so it's actually ambulance staff and forensics caring for the bulk of these patients. Okay. Where are we going to get to any meaningful reporting in this article? The best advice would be if you yourself had a first-degree relative, a parent, it would be tough to have, a parent, sibling, child who's had unexplained death. It's extremely recommended you see a cardiologist, she said. So can we appreciate what just we witnessed with that article? A headline, which is shocking, because presumably this is news, and that's why it's in the news now, because it's new and not an old existing phenomenon that has always existed with the same severity. Because now it says we have to, and then again, don't anyone accuse me of suggesting anything. This headline says people are dying suddenly and unexpectedly from a mysterious syndrome. Healthy young people are dying suddenly and unexpectedly from a mysterious syndrome as doctors seek answers through a new register. So this sounds like it's something of a new problem by the phrasing of this headline, unless I'm reading into it based on my own perceived bias. Because this is all new. I don't recall seeing articles like this 5 years ago, and I'm neurotic. I do remember my mother and my father. They still do. They send me articles of people dropping dead after going in very cold water. They say, David, don't go winter swimming and you're going to have a heart attack. It can cause cold-induced arrhythmia. I was like, yeah, okay. My mother always sent me those articles going back 20 years. I don't recall there being an epidemic of people under 40 suddenly dying from an unexplained mysterious death, so much so that they gave it a name. Oh, who in the chat can see when SADS was created as a concept? Yeah, here. I'm 54. I've never heard of SADS until the other day. Me neither. But maybe people in the chat can find out when SADS was created as a term. I'm going to go look for it afterwards because now that's a question I have. But this article is talking about news. That's why it's in the news, because it's new and not old. It's called the news and not the olds, to quote a Simpsons. I've never heard of it either. And I pay attention to these things. When we say in our family, we have my grandfather on my mother's side died of a heart attack when he was 54, when my mother was 13. But other than that, then we have heart conditions. But my grandfather on my father's side died too young, but not at 50. Grandmother on my dad's side lived to 103. Yeah. The relevance of the article are the numbers presented, which are higher than historical norms for SUD and SADS. Yep. Well, that's what I think is the point of it. So anyway, it's mysterious. Nobody possibly knows. And then when you get into the substance of that article, acutely missing from that piece of journalism is actual journalism. Comparisons to historical averages. Investigations into the causes. Descriptions of contemporaneous events. So acutely missing from the journalism is journalism. But the headline is a shocking headline. And they're telling young people to go get their hearts checked out. I'm old enough to remember when stress tests were not required unless you were applying for life insurance, and they just wanted to make sure that you didn't have any underlying conditions that would increase your likelihood of, oh, that's annoying, of issues that might cause them to increase the, oh, wow, I'm just making it worse now. There we go. That's it. Not touching it again. I'll sit up a little higher if I have to. So there's that. There's that. And if you dare ask questions, they'll call you all sorts of names. There was a chat that I wanted to get to. It's just a flesh wound. That's in reference to the camera falling over. Oh, hold on. Okay, that's better. That's not, I just made it worse. How long? How long? Okay, and then there was this comment. Monkeypox. People, there is an article floating around that is debunked as fake news. That the monkeypox was in fact shingles being diagnosed. The CTV or whatever article that it was attributed to never ran the article, never ran the headline. So don't get caught sharing what is seemingly either a hoax, satire, fake news, good faith, whatever. That story apparently is not true. So don't be sharing it and then get accused of spreading misinformation. Someone sent it to me. First thing I did, I Google in search in quotation mode a citation from the article. It didn't come up, which is never a good sign. And then I read a bit more, and it seems that CTV never ran the article, and the information is inaccurate. Okay, that's what we got here. SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, is what it was originally called. They added the A for adults. SIDS is used when they don't know what cause of death was. SIDS, any parent knows about SIDS. I had never heard about SADS. I had heard about SAD, which is SADD, seasonal affective depression disorder. I had never heard of SADS as sudden adult death syndrome. I just knew that as heart attacks, cardiac arrest, underlying heart condition. And when it happened, it's always tragic. It's always unexpected, unless, people are running Ironman, and then it tends to happen more often in general, just from overexertion. But I had never heard of SADS as a phenomenon as rampant as SIDS. And every parent knows about SIDS because they tell you not to let your baby sleep on their stomach. They don't know why that seems to exacerbate SIDS in newborns and infants. But I had never heard of SADS, and I pay attention to these things because I live in fear of everything.